very good morning to everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. In these unprecedented times, when college and home life have been disrupted, it is the need of the hour to stay strong and be resilient. Thousands of people are getting infected by the coronavirus every day, and thousands are succumbing to it. At this point in time, a particular quote comes in my mind, and that is, "This too shall pass." No matter how difficult the situation is, everything passes. It is in times like these that we need to keep faith in God and toil in our studies and bonding with our families. We need to use this time to reflect on ourselves, to introspect, grow, and come out as better individuals. St. Joseph's PU College welcomes you to Kaizen, a webinar on self-improvement. Kaizen is a Japanese term which means to change for the better with continuous improvement. We are privileged to have Mr. Roger Joseph LURSHAY, who is an alumnus of our college, who will enlighten us about Kaizen and help us understand how atomic habits can lead to phenomenal changes and success over time. Prayer is putting oneself in the hands of God. Praying does not change God, but it sure does change the person who prays. I now invite Ryan of 2O to lead us in prayer.
Let us close our eyes and look to God in prayer. Dear God, we thank you for this beautiful morning that you have given us. Thank you for giving each one of us this wonderful opportunity to learn about how to improve ourselves. We also thank you so much for Roger Joseph LURSHAY, who will be spending his valuable time so that we can have a memorable and a great learning experience. We pray that this webinar will go on smoothly as planned without any hindrances. We pray that everyone attending this webinar will benefit greatly from it. We also pray for all the people in crisis during this time. Be with them and help them. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ryan. I now invite Ralvin of 2N to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning. On behalf of the St. Joseph Pre-University College family, I deem it a privilege to welcome all of you to Kaizen, a webinar on self-improvement. It's my honor to welcome the key speaker of the day, Mr. Roger Joseph LURSHAY, our principal, Reverend Father Melvin Lobo S.J., our vice principal, Ms. Renuka Zakaria, our campus minister, Reverend Father Wilson Benes S.J., our teachers, parents, and my dear fellow Josephites. We are indeed blessed to have in our midst an eminent speaker, the alumnus of St. Joseph Pre-University College, Mr. Roger Joseph LURSHAY. Mr. Roger is an HR professional. He has played an active role in Mindtree for 4.5 years, managing the testing service line and the travel, transportation, and hospitality as an HR business partner. He's now working as an HR consultant at Oracle. He is a member of the Young Advisory Board of NHRD, Bangalore chapter, and the Communication chapter of NHRD. He is the alumnus of 4 Jesuit institutions in Bangalore. He plays an important role in curating the editions of the Magis. He has written, directed, and acted a musical drama called The Lessons of Life, which is a clear portrayal of Jesuit education. He conducts various workshops on topics such as public speaking, finding your purpose, and science of happiness. I'm sure that we, the students of St. Joseph's, will learn a lot from this webinar and gain a lot of knowledge which will assist us in our future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralvin. I now invite Mr. Roger Joseph LURSHAY, our keynote speaker, to address today's gathering.
All right. At the very outset, a big thank you to our principal, Reverend Father Melvin Lobo, our vice principal, Mrs. Renuka, and the entire staff for giving me this opportunity to come back to Joseph's and talk to all of you. Now, before we get into Kaizen, before we get into what atomic habits are all about, I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of different expectations. This is one of the first kinds of sessions we've been having for the students of SJPUC. Way back when I was there, we didn't have something like this. So I'm happy and glad that the students, all of you today, are fortunate to have something like this. But before we get into the topic as such, there's some very important details that I have to share with all of you. All right. Now, for those of you who are sports lovers, you'll know that for every sport, there's a set of rules. If you're playing football, there are fouls, there are penalties. If you're playing hockey, likewise, the same thing. If you're playing basketball, every sport has a set of rules and guidelines. Likewise, I want all of you to think of this entire session uh, as another game because it's going to get very interactive, it's going to get very competitive. But what I want you to do is think of it as a game, as another sport. All right. Now, if it's going to be another sport, this too is also going to have a set of rules and guidelines and penalties and so on and so forth. All right. So, rule number one for all of you, wherever you are seated with your laptop, your desktop, I want you to bring along with you another pen and paper, a notebook and a pen, because all of what I'm going to talk to you about would be better if you take notes, all right? Because I feel, and through experience, I can tell you for sure that when you write things down, you're able to remember them a lot clearer and a lot better in the days to come. So we don't want this to be one of those feel good sessions where after these 2 hours you feel really good, you feel like you've accomplished something, and then by the end of 1 week you don't really remember what happened. It was just another good feeling that you had on this Sunday. All right. So rule number one, I want all of you to get a pen and paper, keep it right next to your laptops. If you want, I'll wait another 2 minutes for all of you to get started. The second rule that I have for all of you is while you have one hand on your pen on top of that notebook, I want you to keep your other hand firmly placed on your laptop, ready to unmute yourself. Because at any point in time, I'm going to point out to you and I'm going to interact with you. This is not going to be one of those one way boring webinars or TED Talks. This is going to be a very interactive session. All right. That's the way I want it to be. I'd like to get to know you as much as I'd like you to get to know me. So, keep that hand firmly ready, and I'm going to test and see how ready all of you are. We'll check very quickly with Chirag D. Chirag, can you hear me loud and clear? You'll have to unmute yourself and
Yes, yes, I can.
okay, brilliant. Now, Chirag, you've brought me to the third rule, which is no yes, sir, or anything of that sort. Every time I ask you a question and you want to say yes or you want to confirm something, you've got to say Roger that. All right. My name is Roger, of course, so I'm going to leverage that to the best possible way. All right. So, Chirag, one more time, can you unmute yourself? Did you hear me loud and clear?
Roger that.
Brilliant. Awesome, Chirag. Manu, can you hear me loud and clear? Manu M.
Roger, sir. Roger
All
that.
right. Roger, that is enough. There's no sir because I'm not as old as you think I am. So, very quickly, we'll get started. Now, uh, before we even get to the crux of what this topic is all about, I don't claim to be a mind reader, but I'm pretty sure I kind of know what's going through your heads for most of you right now at this point in time. I'm pretty sure most of you have this thought in your head right now, right? Maybe you all don't feel like the Rock, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you have this question in your mind. Who do you think you are? This is a pleasant Sunday morning. We love spending our Sundays by ourselves at home, relaxing in the comfort of our homes. But no, you want to invade our homes, take 2 hours away out of our precious Sundays, right? So I'm pretty sure many of you must be asking the same question. Who do you think you are? How could you possibly take away our Sunday time, right? I'm going to answer you, this question for all of you. Uh, I'm not a guru, I'm not a teacher, I'm not here to motivate you or do anything of that sort. I'm here simply to share with you my experiences, not as a speaker, not as a motivational speaker, not as somebody who's working in a corporate company. None of those titles matter. I'm here to speak to all of you as a fellow Josephite because I've been there, I've been in your shoes, I've been in the exact same college that all of you are going to right now. I've been through that phase of life. So, all I want to do during the next 1.5 hours or so is simply share with you some of my experiences. tell you what are the things that went well and possibly tell you a few of the tricks, techniques, and tips that helped me. And some of them continue to help me even now in my work life right now. I want to share these tips with you, share a few of these interesting concepts with you. Why? Because I hope and pray that you navigate through this phase of your life, which is a very crucial phase, without making possibly some of the mistakes that I made. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake, there's nothing wrong with failing, all right? But the key is to fail fast and move forward. As long as you learn from every mistake that you've made, it's absolutely fine to make mistakes. Make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then move on forward. What's criminal is if you make the same mistake again and again and again and don't learn anything from it. Then that's criminal. But as long as you learn something from every mistake you make and then move forward, you are growing, you are evolving, you are becoming a better version of yourself. Because if we didn't make mistakes, let's face it, we'd never learn anything, right? So, having said that, and as typical as the Josephite culture is, when somebody puts you on the spot, we've got this habit of putting them back on the spot again. So, I'm going to put all of you back on the spot. You wanted to know who I think I am. So, I'm going to ask you the very same question. Who do you think you are? All right. Because in today's day and age, social media tells us to be somebody, our parents tell us to be somebody, teachers tell us to be somebody. We, in our own minds, we have this own impression of who we'd like to be. All right. Which is why I want to explain to you this very interesting concept. As an HR professional, this is something that most of us HR professionals go through and understand in a little depth. This is something that's called the Johari window. All right. It was this entire concept was formulated by these two individuals, Joseph and Harry Ingham. What they basically did is they plotted an x and y axis, and as you can see on your screen, on one axis there's stuff that's known to everyone else around you, known to others. When I talk about others, I'm referring to everyone in your sphere of life: your parents, your teachers, your friends, all of the people you interact with. And on the other axis you see stuff that is known to yourself. All right. Broadly, if you look at what's on this graph, you see four quadrants. Now, for the sake of understanding, I've just classified them in different colors. All right. Let's begin with the first blue colored box that you see. We call it a facade. All right. Now, why do we call it a facade? Simply because that's the stuff in your life that only you know about yourself. The rest of the world may not necessarily know that about you, because you don't really show that side to the rest of the world. It's a facade that you keep just for yourself. Only you know those little areas, those little quirks about yourself, those little habits, those little things that you do, that it's private, it's to yourself, and you're fine with the rest of the world not knowing that about you. We move on to the orange quadrant, which is called the arena. Now, what is an arena? It's like a wrestling match where you have an entire audience looking at you. You portray a self of yours, a side of yourself that everyone knows. These are all the areas in your life that you are very well aware of, and the rest of the world also is aware of. Like, for instance, one look at me and you can say, this guy's a foodie. He loves to eat. Yes, I know I love to eat. The world knows I love to eat. Brilliant. That's the arena in all of our lives. All right. Then we move on to the third quadrant, which is what we called a blind spot. Now, a blind spot is simply because this is one or two of those areas in your life that you aren't necessarily aware about. But others who work with you, who study with you, who teach you, these are people who interact with you and they've noticed these things about you. They've observed you. And I'm presuming some of you will agree with me when possibly you've had these experiences where either it's a teacher or a friend or even your parents coming and telling you, you know what, this is something you do. Maybe you shouldn't do this, or maybe you should start doing this. And your first reaction, your immediate response was probably, not really. I never thought of myself as that. Possibly if somebody came and told you, you know what, in class you don't talk too much. But you in your head, you assume that you were this extrovert, you love talking. But this is possibly an area, possibly features, observations about your life that you aren't aware of. So because you aren't aware of it, but others are keenly able to observe this and notice it, it's called a blind spot. And then, of course, the fourth quadrant, which is in purple, is what's unknown. It's basically unknown to you, it's unknown to the people around you. These could be qualities that evolve over time through the experiences that you have. As you go through different phases of life, you discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. And likewise, the people around you discover facets, talents that you had that you possibly never tried out before. This is the areas that life presents to both you and the people around you. But right now, I'm not going to focus too much on the unknown quadrant and the arena quadrant, because let's face it, what everybody else knows about you and you know about yourself, it's taken care of. Not too much to worry about. What I want to focus on right now is these two particular areas. First of all, beginning with the facade and the blind spot. Areas that you know about yourself, things you know about yourself that possibly others don't know, and your blind spot. So, first thing I want you to do right now is a little activity. All right. I want you to write down on one side of your notebook three or more areas of improvement that belong to the facade category. Basically, you know these things about yourself. These are areas that you want to improve, but possibly the rest of the world doesn't know that these are your aspirations, your areas of improvement. But this is something that's personal to you. Make a list of them, at least three. But if you have more than three, that's absolutely all right. That's on one side of the page. On the other side of the page, I want you to actually stop for a moment and give this some thought. Think for a second about possibly feedback or inputs you've got from your parents, from your siblings, from your friends, from your teachers about blind spots that existed in your life. What do you think are three or more areas of improvement somebody else has told you that you may not have actually thought about if they didn't bring it up to you? Write down those on the right side of your page. I'm going to give you about 3 to 4 minutes to get that done. All right? You may get started. All right. For those of you who finished, let's start listening to what you have to say. We'll begin with Abhishek. Abhishek, are you there? Could you unmute yourself? Tell us what have you listed down in these two questions that I've asked you?
Excuse me, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Yeah, so in the three or more areas of improvement which others have telling me about are like to increase my physics, like I'm not that interactive in sports and other things.
Okay. Your physique, you want
Like
to
my,
work on your physique, basically work out a lot,
yeah,
get more into fitness and wellness. All right.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah.
What
So
else,
that is
Abhishek?
one.
Okay.
Then other one more is like people tell me that I have to increase my general knowledge because I'm not much aware of the things going around.
All right. GK, general awareness about what's happening in the world around you. Very, very interesting.
Yes.
What else, Abhishek?
And the other one more thing is like to give importance on the regular things I'm doing.
Okay, your day-to-day work, whatever's a part of your
Yeah,
daily
day to
life,
work.
focus on it, be a
Yeah.
little more attentive and attention to detail. Very interesting. Do you have any blind spots, Abhishek, that possibly somebody's told you about stuff about you that you didn't really know about before?
No, mate, there's nothing like that.
All right, all right. Thanks a lot, Abhishek, for sharing with us. We'll quickly
Yeah,
hear
yes.
from Chatush Madan. Chatush, are you there with us? Could you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Chatush. No, yes, sir, Chatush. What was the
Roger that, sir.
brilliant, Chatush? Go for it. Tell me what
Three
were the three
areas
areas?
of improvement that others have told me is one is anger management.
All right, they've told you you're short tempered, and this is something that you didn't realize.
Yeah.
All right, what else, Chatush?
Confidence while speaking to strangers or new people, I feel nervous.
All right, have they told you that, or is this a part of your list?
So both I figured it myself and people have told
Brilliant.
me.
This is a very interesting. So basically, this is one feature that's there on your own personal list, and this was also something that other people have told you about. All right, what else, Chatush?
And patience.
Patience. Once again, was this something that somebody else told you about, or?
Yes, sir. Somebody else told me.
All right. So they told you short-tempered, anger management, and also they included patience along with that. All right.
Yeah,
I hope this is not some of your friends who you've been recently having an argument with, and that's why they've given you all of these inputs. But okay, what about the areas that you want to improve on yourself, Chatush?
sir. Communication, sir. That's all.
Okay. All right. One that's just the one thing that you've listed down for yourself. All right,
Yeah.
Chatush. Very interesting. So communication and like you said, what your blind spots have been in terms of anger management, short temper, and patience. All right. Thanks. Let's hear from Brian. Brian B. Brian, are you there with us? Could you unmute yourself?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Brian.
am
Yeah,
I
yeah, you
audible?
are audible.
Yes. So under blind spot, I have listed listening. I tend to cut people off while they're speaking, and I'm not really patient when they
Okay.
speak. Uh, I've been told that I lack discipline with my work,
Okay.
and I am not exactly very process oriented. I'm more goal oriented.
Interesting. You're not process oriented, you are more goal oriented. There's, in fact, a big chunk of that that I'll be talking about in just a few minutes, Brian. All right. What about the areas you've listed down about yourself?
Okay. I'm listed on seriousness. I tend to not take my life or the things I do very seriously,
Wow. Okay.
and that apart, time management.
Time management. All right. Brilliant. Anything else, Brian?
No, that's all that I've listed. So,
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Brian. Very quickly, we'll just hear last from, I think, Eric Alvin. Eric, are you there with us?
Roger that, sir.
All right, Eric. Let's hear what you have to say.
So, the three or more areas of improvement that others have told me about was one to mind my own language.
Okay.
So I had to mind my own language. That is to be honest.
Okay.
And other one was that I lacked discipline. I mean, I never gave so much attention and discipline to people.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. And what about the areas you've listed down for yourself?
Myself, patience. I don't pay much attention, and I'm not so patient when it comes to stuffs. So yeah.
All right. All right. Is there anything else?
No, so that's all.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Eric, for sharing. Thanks to all of you for sharing because what you've listed down right now, and I'm sure for the rest of you, These are very personal details about yourself, but the best part about this entire activity is it's all about awareness. Now, on a typical day in college, in fact, throughout your entire curriculum in college, you're being taught about different concepts in various topics, various subjects, so on and so forth. But these 2 hours that you have is your one chance not to learn just about everything outside you, but also to stop for a moment and look inside. It's a very good time for introspection, because there's no problem that you can solve if you aren't aware what the problem is in the first place, right? That's what I want to talk to you about before I get started with regards to the actual topic at hand, Kaizen. Now, you heard about it in the introduction. What you see on the screen is not some long lost, complicated Japanese concept that I'm going to talk to you about. Yes, it is something that's existed for several decades, but the reason it is still talked about even today is simply because it's a foolproof technique that's been tried and tested across the world, not just in Japan. How did this whole concept originate? It originated in Japan after the World War, basically when Japan took a very bad hit. Their industries were massacred and they really struggled to get back on their feet. That's when the Japanese decided to embrace this concept. This primarily was for their industries, for their manufacturing industry. What's the general idea behind Kaizen? It's you make small changes to your machinery. Say you oil a machine a little more so that it works a little faster, a little smoother. You smoothen the edges of the machine so that there's no friction. The machine works faster, a little more efficient. Like this, you make small changes to different parts of the machine or different parts of the process, so that the process or the machine increases or its efficiency, and its increased efficiency therefore helps in better productivity of goods or services. And when you have more goods, you obviously have more revenue coming in. Basically, this is a manufacturing tip and technique. Now, why on earth am I standing here telling all of you about some manufacturing technique or tip that was used by the Japanese after the World War? What's the relevance, right? I'm going to take you one step further and explain to you the process, because yes, it is a process that was used for the manufacturing industry, but I'm going to replicate that process in terms of our lives. How can we use that process that's used in the manufacturing industry to improve efficiency for machines and companies? How can we use that same concept to improve possibly the efficiency in our own lives, right? Now, the first step that you see right at the top is to get employees involved, because to make any changes in this manufacturing process, you need everyone, right from your leadership to the lowest employee that's a part of the entire company, right? Likewise, in your life, for all of the problems that all of you mentioned, whether it's time management, anger management that you had issues with, whether it's focusing on the here and now, all of these are definite problems that you are facing. Absolutely agreed. But if you want to bring about any sort of change, you need to get, in this case, they say get employees involved, but in your case, it's get all the stakeholders in your life involved. What do I mean by all the stakeholders in your life? It includes your parents, your siblings, your friends, your teachers, all of the people you interact with. Because you can't make any change in your life insulated from all of these other stakeholders around you. Like, for instance, somebody said that they wanted to focus on fitness. If fitness is your focus or your goal and it's something that you want to work on, can you say, I doesn't matter what my friends say, what my parents say, I'm going to do this by myself and I will survive? It's not possible, because practically the food that you eat today is cooked by your mom at home. If your mom doesn't know that fitness is one of your goals, she's going to fatten you up with some nice ghee chapatis and all the ghee, all the butter in the house, right? It's not going to help you. Likewise, if your friends don't know that fitness is one of your goals, you're going to focus on your diet, you're going to focus on eating healthy, every time they decide to hang out at McDonald's, they're not going to think twice about you. If every day they're hanging out at a McDonald's or a KFC, eating all the junk food possible, is that going to help you in your endeavor of getting a little more fit? Not really. So you need to get all of the different stakeholders involved. Let them know that this is something that you want to work on. This is a change that you want to see in your life, and you need their help and support. All right. So get all of the employees, or in your case, get all the stakeholders involved. The second step that you see there is gather a list of problems, just like all of you wrote down right now. Now, There are different problems, some that you've written that you've addressed, you've identified yourself, and possibly some that others have told you about. Once you make a list of all of these problems, now you can't boil the ocean. You can't decide to solve all these problems in one go, right? So you need to prioritize, put these problems in order of which one is going to be the most impactful at this stage in your life, which one's most crucial to you. Prioritize these problems and select those 2 to 3 problems or those 2 to 3 goals that you want to address, like all of you wrote down right now. All right. Third step is encourage solutions and then choose an idea. Now, there are different approaches to all of these problems that you've listed. Like, for instance, if it was fitness that somebody mentioned, you could address it by focusing on the diet part of it. You could address it by focusing on working out a little more. There are different ways you can address. So list out all the possible solutions and you figure out which is the one that you want to try out, which is the one you want to experiment first. That brings us to the next step, which is test the solution. There are possibly 10 different solutions for each of those problems, but try out and see which is the one that you see is the most useful, which is the next step in terms of regularly measure and analyze the results. You've tried solution A, doesn't work out too well, try solution B and C. If you find that the results, the measure of the results is more productive in using an alternative solution, narrow down on what these solutions are. So if successful, adopt the solution. That's the next step. Adopt whichever solution you think best suits you. Because if your mom has to cook for you and a whole bunch of siblings, and then deciding to cook a separate meal for you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is going to be a big task for her, right? So see which solution best suits you and adapt that solution, adopt that solution. And finally, the last step is repeat on an ongoing basis. That's the next bit of this entire session that I'll be talking to you about in terms of what happens when you repeat the solution over and over and over again. It eventually becomes a habit. When you repeat a behavior over and over again, you form a habit. And when you have these habits in place in your life, you have a difference in the lifestyle that you lead. And change in habits brings about a change in lifestyle. A change in lifestyle will help you eventually reach those goals that you set for yourself. All right. So you stop to think of it. It's not really the goal that is alone that's important. The goal is important. Yes, you need to set smart goals. You need to set goals that add meaning and value to your life, absolutely. But setting the goal isn't enough, because we as individuals are not going to rise to the goal. Just because I say I want to become, say, the president of the country or the prime minister of the country, that doesn't mean I'm automatically going to become that president or prime minister. The key is set those goals, but don't just rely on those goals alone. You need to also set a solid system that will help you get to those goals. A solid system, a set of processes in place in your life, a set of habits in your life that will help you achieve those goals. Because as Tony Robbins very often says, we do not rise to our goals, instead, we fall or settle to the systems that we set for ourselves. All right. Keep this in mind as we progress in the session. I've put on the screen for all of you two very interesting pictures, one on the left and one on the right. One on the left, you see one of those Vodafone Zuzus trying to climb up some very simple steps. And on the right hand side, you see uh, a boy possibly around your age trying to jump from one side of a cliff to another. I want to ask all of you, look at these two pictures for a second. Tell me which one would you like to choose between the two. We'll begin with Chirag. Chirag, which picture would you like to choose between the two? If you had to do the same task, which one would you want to choose?
I would choose the first one with the Zuzu.
All right. Why Chirag? Why would you choose that?
Because in the second picture, there's a chance of falling down, and you may not come up again.
Very
So
interesting.
the
All right.
first one is like a simple step, but
Right.
will give you a lot of benefits. Like
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Chirag. You've summed that up pretty well. Chris Jain, can we hear from you, Krish? What would you choose?
Even I would choose the first one.
Why, Krish? For the same reasons? Do you have any other reason?
Yeah, no, the same reason.
All right. What about Manu? Manu, thanks a lot, Krish. Manu, could you unmute yourself and tell me which one of the two would you choose?
The first one.
Why, Manu? Any different reasons?
So the same reason, but one more thing is in the second picture we don't get experience.
All right, all right.
We directly jump into a
Thanks, Sunil. You're saying on the left side picture, there's a experience you get with each step, and that's something that you don't necessarily get on the picture on the right hand side. All right, very interesting. Could we hear from Joseph Jose? Joseph, could you share with us what do you
Roger
think?
that, sir. Yes, I think I'm going to go with the one on the right. Now, my opinion is that I feel the guy on the left is taking a very elegant way to things. He's just going to climb up the red carpet, go up the steps, and finish it. But then
Okay.
I remember this quote which says that what comes fast doesn't last, whereas what comes really slowly lasts. So I feel the guy on the right, in order to make that jump,
Hmm.
he's not going to just wake up one fine day and climb up the stairs. He's going to take time to exercise, prepare himself for that jump. And even if he falls with glory. If he wins, he's a hero.
All right. Very, very interesting. So it's thanks a lot, Joseph, for sharing your perspective. Um, the reason why I'm asking you a question like this, I mean, a question like this doesn't seem too complicated, right? I mean, it seems like the logical thing to do is to take the option on the left, right? This is the one the Zuzu's taking one step at a time, get that done. But very often in our lives, in myself included, especially when I was in PUC, like all of you, most of us are attracted to take the decision on the right hand side, like Joseph mentioned. All right. The one on the left seems like the boring way, the typical way. The guy on the right seems like the cool dude. He's taking this big leap of faith. He's the adrenaline junkie, making these big moves, taking these big risks. I mean, that seems like the cool thing to do, right? And pretty much my entire life in SJPUC was exactly like this guy on the right hand side. I was the kind of person who wasn't happy, taking the safe way, the safe approach. I was the one who wanted to take risks, be it stepping on stage at Equinox, taking part in personality, winning personality, going on stage, making those bold, daring statements, taking part in a Mad Ads competition, taking part in any fest that happened. I was all pumped, all joshed up to make these big moves, take these big risks. And by all means, I'm not discouraging any of you. I'm encouraging all of you. Yes, if it comes to taking part in fests, in competitions, take the riskier step. Be brave enough, be courageous enough to make these bold moves. Yes, it makes a big impression. But what's the approach that we should ideally take when it comes to our decisions in life? Right now, at this juncture in your life, you have quite a lot of options ahead of you, right? Now, the biggest difference that you will see between taking the big steps and the small steps is the chance in failing. All right. Now, what happens when you take a big step? Like Joseph mentioned, there's a higher risk. What happens when there's a higher risk? There's a huge amount of stress that sets into your body, that sets into your mind. And when the stress keeps building on, then you have that fear of not making that jump, fear of missing the other end from point A to point B. There's that big fear that you may not make it. Also, when you have so much of fear in your mind, there's a lot of anxiety, and with all the stress, fear and anxiety building up inside of you, it could possibly affect your performance. It could result in failure. The chance of failing when you take that big step is so much more as compared to when you take that sure steady one step at a time, because it's as simple as putting one foot in front of the other, right? Now, why am I highlighting these things that seem pretty basic to all of us? I'm highlighting all of this simply because for all of these goals that most of you mentioned in that first activity that I asked you, right? Whether it be in terms of fitness, whether it be in terms of time management, anger management, whether in terms of focusing on your studies, small steps are easier to do, right? For instance, for the person who said he wanted to focus on his physique, if today, right here, right now, you're all motivated, all enthusiastic because of this big webinar that's happened for you, because SJPUC scheduled this webinar on self-improvement, you're so kicked and excited, you say, focusing on my physique, my fitness was my number one goal. Tomorrow onwards, I'm going to start working 2 hours a day, make sure I get into form. You may do it tomorrow, you may do it on a Monday or Tuesday and a Wednesday. By the time Thursday comes, you're tired, you're exhausted, you have muscle pains in every part of your body, and you're possibly edging towards, you know what, maybe I'll take a break day today. You take one break day, then it's the weekend, then you think maybe the weekend is not really time to, work out. My point I'm trying to make here is the chances of you stopping after starting is a lot more when you try to take those big jumps of, say, working 2 hours a day, high intensity workouts. The possibility of you actually doing that is a lot less as compared to, say, you say, fine, let me try, he said, small steps. So possibly I start with just 10 minutes of workout instead of 2 hours. Let me try with 10 minutes. If somebody challenged you and said, listen, I challenge you to do 10 minutes of workout, in these 10 minutes of workout, I expect you to do 10 squats, 10 crunches, and do 3 reps of these. 3 repetitions of 10 squats and 10 crunches. Sounds doable, right? 10 minutes of your day, not a big deal. Yes, I'll go ahead and do it. And you end up doing it. You say, a big deal, challenge accepted. You do it for an entire week. Week number 2, he says, not just 10 squats and 10 crunches, I want you to do 10 sit ups as well. Not just 10 sit ups, I want you to do 10 squats. Small incremental additions. How does this help you? What's the big difference? These are small steps. So your mind registers it as something that's easy to do, something that's easy to accept, not a big effort required. And all of us will have the same way of thinking when it comes to, if it's not too much of an effort, yeah, I can do it, not a big problem. Whereas if you had that in your mindset, you have a 2 hour workout scheduled, the very thought of sweating out for 2 hours, putting in effort for 2 hours, that itself drains you, that itself scares you, that itself builds that fear in you. Whereas on the other hand, small steps, just a 10-minute workout, 10 minutes, one every day a week, not a big deal. You start embracing these small steps with a lot more confidence, with a mind that's a lot more clear. So it's easy to get started. And once you start sustaining it by giving yourself small rewards, you say, fine, for every day in the week, I worked out for those 10 minutes, I did those crunches or those squats. I think I deserve a reward. So maybe on a Saturday or a Sunday during the weekend, I reward myself with some junk food, a little bit of, say, some chocolate, or a little bit of maybe a burger, something to reward myself for the kind of work that I did. It was consistency. Consistently for the entire week, I worked out. Small rewards help you sustain, and then you build this habit that slowly gets formed. So at the end of 3 months, say you decided you wanted to lose 10 kgs by the end of 3 months. Now, if you had the plan of taking those big giant steps, those big giant leaps of working 2 hours a day, you would have possibly worked maybe 3, 4 days and then given up. Maybe lost about 1 kg or 2 kgs. But on the other hand, if you worked small steps, small 10-minute workouts for the course of these 3 months, slowly, incrementally built on the kind of workouts that you did, you would have possibly maybe not lost those 10 kgs that you planned, but at least you would have lost maybe about 7 to 8 kgs for the effort that you put in, for the consistency that you put in. Which is a better option? Time and experiments have tried and tested these techniques and have told us and have proven to all of us that small steps clear the mind of all these challenges. They make you want to take these small steps because these are steps that are sure and steady. You know you can put one foot in front of the other, get to the next step with a lot ease as compared to making that jump. Like I mentioned to you, if it's short term, if it's just going on a stage and performing, yes, we are conditioned to have those little shots of adrenaline in our lives, taking those risks one step once in a while. But if it's something that's a little more long term, if it's you studying in PUC, PUC is not just a one time stage performance where you get the applause and you step off stage. PUC is a good 2 years of dedicated consistency. The decisions that you make, the habits that you want to form aren't going to stop overnight. These are habits that you need to sustain for the entire period of 2 years. Can you sustain the risk taking for 2 years? Or would you rather take sure and steady small steps that will help you reach from point A to point B? Maybe not as fast as taking one big jump, but you're sure and steady of getting to point B by taking small steps. All right. This brings me to another concept that I want to talk about, because like I said, if it's something that you keep repeating, you keep taking these small steps over and over again, that is you forming your habits, right? So I want to ask you this big question. What are your habits? I'm going to actually give you some time. I want all of you to list down all the possible habits you think you might have in your daily life. What are the habits that you have right now? All right, I'm going to give you a good 2 minutes to write down these habits, and then we'll get discussing on what they are. All right, I think that's about enough time for all of us to list down our habits. I myself have made a list of my own. Let's begin with Ryan. Ryan, if you can unmute yourself and tell us what are the habits that you listed down.
Roger that. So one of my main habits would be singing because it's something that I've been brought up in because of my family.
All right.
So when I'm bored or when I'm distracted or even when I'm busy, singing would help me, calming me down. Like if I'm too stressed with something, I would probably take a 5 minute break and just sing something.
You know what happens, right, Ryan? Whenever
Yeah.
you attend a workshop and you say my habit or my hobby is singing, you're bound to
Okay.
be asked to sing a few lines. You know that, right?
Yes, this usually happens to me.
All right, we'll come back to you, Ryan. I'm not going to let you go without you singing a few lines. So keep in mind what are those lines? What's that song you're going to sing for all of us? But
Roger.
what are the other habits, Ryan? What else have you listed down?
The other habits, it would be probably praying and
Okay.
pray, almost every morning,
All
and
right.
kind of develop a habit of probably even reading the Bible or so.
Very interesting. So there's a lot of spirituality in
Yes,
your life and complemented with a lot of singing. Very interesting. All right.
yes.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. I'll come back to you for that song. Dhruv, in the meantime, Dhruv, could you unmute yourself and tell us, Dhruv Kotari, what are your habits that you've listed down? Dhruv, if you're speaking, I think you're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself and then speak. All right, we don't have Dhruv. I will move on to Rahul Gonzalez. Rahul, could you unmute yourself and tell us what are the habits that you have?
Sure.
Hi, Rahul.
So swimming and badminton,
Okay,
my habit.
swimming and badminton. Any other habits, Rahul?
Uh, Mainly going for spiritual, as one of my friends told.
Okay, all
That's
right,
it.
all right. Thanks a lot, Rahul. Could we have Shrino Prince? Shrino? I hope I'm pronouncing your name
Yep,
correctly.
Roger that.
Yeah, go ahead, Shrino.
My actually, recently this time of the year, I've been doing a lot of new stuffs.
Okay,
I can't tell it's a habit or I mean, it might be.
okay, okay. You
So I
intend
watch
to make these a
cartoons.
habit going forward at least.
Okay, I watch cartoons like regularly if in a break, and music is my passion, everything. So I keep playing stuff,
Okay,
singing, and
all
then now main thing is in the morning I go at 6 o'clock to play cricket. Recently, it's just
all right.
started.
Very interesting, very interesting. Quite risky playing cricket during the lockdown, but anyway, interesting to know your
Yeah,
habits.
actually, that's not correct, but still.
It's not correct, but still you want to do it. All right, very interesting. All right, thanks a lot, Shrino. Vivian D'Souza. Vivian, could you? Oh, sorry, I think that's
Roger that.
yeah. Go ahead, Vivian. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I think one of my habits would be like playing my keyboard Like whenever I'm a bit stressed or I need a break or something like that, I
All
would
right.
play my keyboard like for about half an hour or something like that on a
Very
daily
interesting. We
basis.
seem to have a lot of musicians and singers in the commerce and arts group of SJPUC. All right. What else,
So
Vivian, besides
so
the
that would
keyboard?
be one of my main habits,
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
And other than that, I would do sketching. Like when I'm
Very
bored or
interesting.
something, I would do sketching. So
Okay.
yeah, I think these are two of the main habits that I have, sir.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Vivian, for sharing.
Yes, sir.
Very quickly, I think we'll end with Srivatsa Benedict. Could
Hello,
you?
sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Srivatsa.
So, like, I have developed a new habit on working on environment protection. So that is my new habit that I have developed in this lockdown.
Okay. How are
And
you protecting the environment, Srivatsa?
so, like, I'm just working on it. I'm just learning about the topics that I could do.
Okay.
And yeah, sir. I'm
Anything else,
just
Srivatsa?
budding that field. Hello,
Anything
am I
else,
audible?
Srivatsa, besides protecting the environment?
Uh, I have a habit of daily meditating to just reduce my stress, and I even sketch a lot when I have free time.
Very nice, Srivatsa. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing. All right.
So
Now,
that's all. Thank you.
thanks a lot, Srivatsa. So, if you stop to think of it, what really are habits? At the end of the day, there's so much that's talked about habits, there's so much that's written about habits. If you go on Google, I'm going to go ahead and mute all of you. When I ask you all to speak, you all can
First
unmute
பேசு.
yourself.
இவன் யார புதுசா வந்திருக்கான்?
Srivatsa, if you can go on mute. Yeah. All right. What really do you mean when you talk about habits? What are habits? Habits at the end of the day are simple behaviors or activities that you do over and over again. Now, when I asked you to list down all of these habits, most of you were thinking about what are those big things in life that you do consistently, repeatedly, time after time, right? But if you stop to think of it, habits happen practically every moment of the day. Right from when you wake up in the morning and head to the restroom to go and brush your teeth. Brushing your teeth itself is a habit. Having a shower, having a bath in the morning, that's a habit. These are things that we do automatically. We've been doing it for so long, over and over and over again, that it's become so automatic in our lives. We don't need to think too much before we do these habits. Now, what if you replicated these same behaviors in terms of whether it was improving on your time management, if it was improving on your physique, on your working out, if it was studying or focusing on your studies? What if you inculcated these same kinds of behaviors? You built habits that would help you in terms of your studies, that would help you in terms of staying fit, that would help you in terms of managing your temper. This is something that was replicated not just recently, this is something that's been done by leaders, this is something that's been done by billionaires across the world. And that's exactly what I want to share with you in this next part of this session, which is in terms of how you can go about forming these habits. All right. Now, there's a lot of books out there, there's a lot of videos out there, but one thing that I would recommend for all of you is this book written by James Clear. Uh, it's called Atomic Habits, and that's exactly what I wanted to talk to all of you about in this session. Because if you're talking about the marks that you get in your exams, or the jobs that all of you will eventually get, or the salary that you would get, what are all of these? Yes, these may be goals that you set for yourself right at the beginning of the year. I want to get good marks, I want to get a good job, I want to get good salaries. But if you stop to think of it, these are all outcomes of all the effort that you put in before the exam, all the effort that you put in before those job interviews, right? All of these are outcomes. Now, do you want your life to be decided by the outcome or by the effort that you put in to get the outcome that you want? All right. That's why James Clear says, be the architect of your habits, not the victim of your habits. Because what do you mean by saying victim of your habits? Because if you don't study too well, you'll end up getting marks that may not be as good as you'd like, and those are marks that you'll have to live with. You'll have to bear the consequences of getting those marks. If it means getting into a poor college after this, getting a job that may not be as well paying, those are the consequences that you have to deal with afterwards. There's another very famous concept or ideology that's believed wherein they say all of us as human beings have to face pain to eventually get pleasure. All right. There's a definite amount of pain that all of us will face in life. Now, whether that pain is before the outcome or after the outcome, that's left in our hands to decide. All right. Now, what do I mean by pain before the outcome or pain after the outcome? Meaning, if you put in all of the pain, all of the effort before your exams, that means maybe cutting down on the time you spend with friends, cutting down the time you spend on social media, cutting down on all of these luxuries right now, and you spend all of that time on dedicated studying, then possibly you'll get marks that will be very rewarding and you'll enjoy the consequences of those marks. Now, that's the pain you're putting in before the outcome. But on the contrary, if you don't put in all of that pain right now, you want to enjoy yourself, spend as much time with your friends and on everything else right now, you'll possibly get marks that are quite poor. And then you'll have to face the pain after the outcome of the regret of what's going to be the consequences thereon forward. All right. So, very quickly, having understood this whole concept of habits and the role that they play in all of our lives, I want to get into habit formation. All right. So James Clear, in this book of his Atomic Habits, he talks about 4 stages or 4 steps that exist in habit formation. All right. Very interesting steps. This is the part where I want you to get your notebooks out and start making notes, because there are some very important tips and techniques that he shares with us. The first step of habit formation is, first of all, noticing. You need to notice what exactly is it that you want to achieve. What's the habit that you want to start, or what's the habit that you want to stop? Now, why do I say stop a habit? Because not all habits are good habits, right? There could be habits that are bad habits. What are bad habits? Basically, any repeated behavior that is detrimental to your life, any repeated behavior that's making you less than a better version of yourself. What are some of these bad habits? At the top of my head, you could talk about smoking or drinking or procrastination. All of these are habits that you want to stop. All right. So he says the first step is to, first of all, notice what are these habits that you want to start and what are these habits that you want to stop. Some of you mentioned habits that you already have, whether it's playing the keyboard, whether it's singing, whether it's being spiritual, praying. Now, possibly some of you, while listening to them, would have said, you know what, that's an interesting habit. That's something that I want to start. So, notice, first of all, what is it that's the habit that you want to start. And don't be deterred, because many people say, wow, you know what, that's a brilliant habit, but I just don't have the motivation. Like, for instance, somebody saying, I want to work out. Yeah, I want to start this habit. I want to get into a good physique, get a good body, get into fitness. But you know what? I just don't have the motivation. Believe it or not, motivation is not what we're lacking, it's clarity. Now, what do I mean when I say clarity? There's this interesting experiment that was done with a group of people. They said, we'll divide these people into 3 different groups. All right. Now, the first group basically is the set of people where, as for those of you who know in experiments, they call it the control group. What they did for these set of people, they told them, listen, we want you to work out. The experiment is all about working out. Working out is important. We want to measure your fitness. So you are a control. They didn't tell them obviously that they are the control group, but they told them, listen, working out is the crux of this entire experiment. So keep this in mind. We want you to work out. We will call you after a certain period of time and assess how much you've worked out. What's the impact on your fitness? That was group one. Group number two, they said, because like some of you mentioned, they lack the motivation, right? So they said, the same thing, working out is important. We want you to work out. We will give you a definite period of time. But in addition to this, we're going to give you some motivational videos. We'll get people to come, just like how this webinar is happening right now. We'll give you a motivational video that you can watch to help you get motivated, get jooshed up, get into that mood of working out. So that was group number two. Group number three was the set of people where they said, besides telling them that working out is a part of the experiment, we want you to work out, besides giving them that motivational video, they said, what we want you to do is we want you to write down specifically, I am going to work out by doing, whether it's a set of 10 push-ups, 10 squats, 10 crunches, on every Monday at 5 p.m. in the evening. They wanted them to write down this statement, put it in black and white, And they left all of these three groups for the same definite period of time. And at the end of that period of time, the results were quite impressive. Because the first group of people, which was the control group, they found out of all the people who participated in group one, 38% of them actually worked out. They said, yeah, working out is important. It's a part of, staying fit, staying healthy. 35%, like very similar to our population, any random population you see, that's pretty much the number of people who do focus on their health, say it's important, and they do work out. Group number two that ended up seeing these motivational videos, only 35% of this entire group actually worked out, because they saw these motivational videos. They said, wow, big deal, very motivating. You know what, I have other things to do, don't really have the time or dedication to actually spend time on working out. So only about 35% of them worked out. But in group three, all of them who actually made a note and said, on every Monday or every Tuesday at this particular time for this particular time period, I'm going to be working out at this particular place, they noticed a shocking 91% of all the people in group number three ended up actually working out and being consistent. Now, what's the big difference? The fact was, motivation didn't really play a big deal in getting them to go out there and work out. Motivation was not the problem. The problem was clarity. Because when you write that down, when you put it in black and white and you say, no matter what happens on this particular day, I'm going to be working out at this particular time, at this particular place, you are reducing the number of steps in your mind. You're reducing the amount of effort for your mind to think, okay, now what should be the workout I should do? Where should I go and work out? How much time should I spend on working out? All of that is sorted out. Your mind doesn't have any work to do. It's clear, crystal clear. It's in black and white. You've written it down. Every Monday at 5 to 6, you are heading to this particular place to do these set of workouts. And that's what the individuals needed. So that's when they realized that motivation is not exactly what's needed. It's clarity in thought that's required. All right. I want to move on to the next bit, which is wanting. Now, wanting is another very important aspect in terms of habit formation. It's important for you to realize that there's a stark difference in terms of just deciding to take on a habit and actually wanting to achieve that habit at the end of the given time period. Now, what do I mean when I say wanting? When I talk about wanting to accomplish something, it's changing the entire environment around you, shaping, controlling everything that's in front of you, right from the desk that you are sitting at right now, what's in front of you on your desk, who are the people in your environment, conditioning and controlling the entire environment to help you achieve these goals. If you stop for a moment right now and take a good look at the house that you are sitting in, I'm guessing most of you are sitting in your living rooms. If you look at 9 out of 10 living rooms of any of your friends, including right now, you will see that most of our living rooms are structured or designed in such a way that the biggest sofa or the biggest couch is placed right in front of your television set, right in front of your TV. Or in fact, most of the things around your living room is directed at your TV. Why is that done? That's done so that by design, all of us are sitting comfortably so that we can watch our TV. That's why most of us, unfortunately, whether we're eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner, we're comfortably positioned in such a way that we're focused at the TV. We design the environment to make it comfortable for us to do what we want to do. So if you want to start a habit, you need to design the environment around you, condition the people around you in such a way that you are able to go ahead and achieve that habit. Now, what do I mean by that? For instance, many of us have this bad habit of, when we set our alarms for the morning, as soon as the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., whenever we set it, it's such a natural knee-jerk reaction to just reach out, put that alarm back on snooze, and get back to sleep, right? Now, this is a habit that we want to stop. You don't want to get into that habit of immediately switching off your alarm and going back to sleep. So if you want to stop that habit from happening, make it a lot harder. For instance, keep your phone on the highest shelf on your cupboard, which is far away from your bed, which means when that alarm goes off in the morning, it's not going to be as simple as just reaching out and switching off that alarm. You'll have to actually get out of that blanket, get out of that bed, walk up to that cupboard, reach up to that top shelf, and then switch off your alarm, which is quite a big task. So you're conditioning the environment to ensure that you stop that habit. On the contrary, if you want to get into the habit of reading, position, possibly keep books right in front of your pillow, on top of your pillow, so that you know you are not going to hit the bed until you take that book, read about 2 3 pages, get that clarity out there. If you want to read 2 pages a day or read 2 chapters a day, write that down in black and white, put that book on your bed, condition your environment so that you know as soon as you're done with the day's work, before you head to sleep, you're going to take that book, read those 2 chapters, and only then go to sleep. So condition the environment around you to make sure that you actually go out there and achieve those habits. The third step, if you look at, is in terms of actually doing these habits. Now, what do I mean when I say actually doing? Because noticing, wanting, yeah, that's great. You've planned, you've made all of these things, but how do you actually get out there and start doing these habits, right? That's the biggest challenge for most of us. We're all good at planning, we're all good at putting things uh, on our to-do list, but how do we actually get there and start doing these habits? Now, that's when you notice that the biggest challenge is not, for instance, for people who are into sports, the biggest challenge is, one of you said you like playing cricket every morning. The biggest challenge is not actually playing the game of cricket at 6 a.m. in the morning. That's something you love doing. The challenge is you getting out of your bed, getting dressed in your cricket sportswear, and heading to that field out there to play cricket. Which is why most athletes, if you see, their habit formation is not the habit of practicing cricket or practicing or heading out there and playing. Their actual challenge in habit formation is the fact that they need to get out of bed, get dressed, and get to that place. Because once they are there at that place, playing cricket comes naturally. Playing cricket is something that they love to do. So that's what we need to focus on. Ensuring that we limit the number of steps to the habits that we want to start doing so that we actually get out there and start doing it. Now, another very interesting way of actually making sure that we do or carry out these habits is what many leaders talk about. It's in terms of how you go about planning your day. If you take a look at any typical day for anybody, whether it's a student like you, a working professional like me, or anybody for that matter, out of the 24 hours that we have, say a good 8 hours goes in sleep at night. We have about another 2 hours that is involved in all the other essential activities. When I say essential activities, it's brushing your teeth, taking a bath, so on and so forth. We've got, say, about 10 hours that goes into sleep and essential activities. So 14 hours out of the 24 hours still remain with you. Out of these 14 hours, say about 8 hours goes in, for me, in my case, it goes into work and everything office related. And in your case, possibly your classes in college and all of the different lectures that you have to attend. You've still got another 6 hours at your disposal. 6 hours for you to polish, nurture all of these habits that you want to start, all of these habits that you want to stop. What you do with that 6 hours is entirely up to you. One very interesting tip and technique that most people have tried and tested is the ability to start tomorrow tonight. Before your day begins, the previous night, make a list out of the 6 hours that you have on your at your expense, at your disposal. What are you going to fill these 6 hours with? Every hour, write it down on a sheet of paper. What are you going to spend that time doing? Which habit are you going to invest in? So that when that day begins, there is not too much thinking that you have to put into. How many pages should you read? Where should you spend this time working out? All of that is taken care of the previous night. You're just into execution mode. You're just into getting the job done when the day actually unfolds. So try this technique out. It's something that has worked wonders for me, especially during this quarantine period when I've had a lot of time at my disposal. I've had a lot of time to get into the habit of starting different things and also into the habit of stopping a few habits that I wanted to stop. And it's worked wonders for me. Get into this habit of actually noting down what's the plan for tomorrow, do it the previous night itself. All right. The next bit that I want to talk to all of you is in terms of liking the habits that you take up. Now, liking the habit is something that doesn't come easily to most of us. All right. Liking a habit is something that, whether it's in terms of working out, whether it's in terms of studying, whether it's in terms of different things that we take up, it's difficult. It's difficult to actually get into this habit of liking what we start, especially when there's a change that we're going through. If it's a diet that you're modifying, it's difficult to like eating healthy food, right? That's when you use a small tip and technique called small rewards. Basically, like I said, if you've exercised the entire week, reward yourself with a small chocolate, with maybe a burger, maybe a yummy, delicious sandwich. Or if you've done an entire week of studying and you've done it regularly, you've done it consistently, reward yourself at the end of the week by, say, binge watching one of your favorite TV shows, or going and watching one of your favorite movies. Reward yourself, because the reward seems a lot more sweeter when you've earned it, and that's a lot more motivation for you to actually get out there and take on the next week with a lot more vigor, with a lot more enthusiasm and motivation. All right. Another very interesting way to get yourself to start liking these habits is the simple task of just making a note of your streak, of the number of days that you've consistently done something different. uh, I took on this very interesting habit of learning French. The last time that I learned French was way back when I was in SJPUC, and then after those 2 years, I didn't really do too much with French. So I decided, wow, it's a good time during this quarantine. Let me start learning French once again. So I downloaded this app. It's called Duolingo. I'm guessing many of you already use it. What this app does is it makes a streak of the number of days that you've actually done that little bit of learning of French. Right now, as of today, I've done 106 days of French. So before every day ends, I don't want those 106 days to go in vain and start again from day one. And that's the reason I do whatever it takes. That's my biggest motivation, to make sure that I do at least a little bit of learning in French, so that I do not lose my streak. It's as simple as that. You don't need an application. All you need to do is just make a small mark on your calendar. Strike out that day if you've done that habit and you've done it consistently. The habit of taking note of these streaks, or keeping a track of your streaks, can be a huge motivating factor to help you like the habits that you are starting. All right. Now, before I proceed, there's a lot of people that get very dejected, very demotivated in terms of habits that they've started, and for whatever reason, they've just not been able to continue. They've not been able to find that consistency. So, what I'm going to do is I want to give all of you one simple activity. This is also a very useful technique that you can use. Two useful techniques I'm going to give you. The first one is something that we call a failure pre-mortem. Everybody knows what's a post-mortem, right? There's enough controversy with Sushant Singh's post-mortem and what happened with all of that. A post-mortem is basically after a dead body arrives at the morgue, they check and see what was the reason, the cause of death, what went wrong, how did this person die, right? What I want you to do is, don't wait for the habit to fail. Don't wait for things not to go your way to actually do a post-mortem. We are going to do a pre-mortem. All right. So what I want you to do is, on one side of your notebook, list down just one goal that you want to accomplish, one major habit that you want to start 12 months from now. At the end of 12 months, you want to say, wow, today I'm a full-fledged, accomplished writer. I've written an entire book. If that's the habit that you want to start, write that as your goal on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I want you to make a list of all the things that could possibly go wrong. All right. Everything that could prevent you from achieving this goal that you've written on the left hand side. It could be something as simple as, my teachers gave me too many assignments and I didn't have enough time to complete my book or write my book. It could be whatever possible reason that you think could possibly make you not achieve this task on the left hand side. Go ahead, get started. One goal and all things that could possibly go wrong. All right. Let's see what you've made note of. Let's begin with Tarun Shri. Tarun Shri, can you hear me? Tarun, you'll have to unmute yourself. Okay, it's Tarun SN. Tarun SN, are you there with us? All right, I don't think Tarun is here with us. We will move on to Tormin Sunny. Tormin, if you can unmute yourself and tell us what you've written down.
Roger that.
Go ahead, Tormin.
So one of my motivations during this time has been to learn guitar.
All right.
Because I've always wanted to. So stuff that
So
could
1 year
stop.
from now, your goal is to be a full-fledged guitarist, somebody who
Yeah.
can go out there and perform on, and say, an Equinox main stage or an Esplendida main stage and get the crowd going and cheering for you, right?
Yes, basically, yeah.
Brilliant. All right. So what do you think can possibly stop you from becoming this guitarist that you want to be?
So I could lose a string while practicing.
Very true. All right.
I could hurt my fingers. Maybe it could bleed.
All right.
Maybe I could get overwhelmed by how much there is to learn.
All right. What else?
I think maybe I could get tired of having slow progress. Like.
All right. You could possibly get frustrated along the way. Brilliant.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
else?
I think that's all I've written now.
Brilliant. Now, I will come back to you, Tormin, in just a bit. Can we move on to Yash Aditya Setya? Yash, are you there?
Roger that.
Awesome, Yash. Let's hear from you. What's your goal?
My goal is securing at least 95 in my class 12th.
Oh, brilliant. And
so main roadblocks I feel is distraction.
What kind of distractions, Yash?
Demotivate mobile phones.
All right. Who's distracting you on your mobile phone? I'm very curious, Yash.
Not like I always get tempted to watch my mobile.
All right. Your mobile phone is one big distraction. What else? What are the other roadblocks?
I might get demotivated.
All right. You may get demotivated along the way. Or frustrated. Okay. What else?
And then I might be having less time to prepare. That's
less time. All right. All right. Anything else, Yash?
No, I've just written down these.
All right. Thanks a lot, Yash. What about Shivaraj? Can we hear from Shivaraj? What's the goal that you've written down for yourself, and what do you think can stop you from achieving this goal? Shiva, if you're speaking, you'll have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Shiva.
My goal is to become an IAFS officer, sir.
Brilliant. And what do you think is going to stop you from becoming an IAFS officer?
As a teenager, same, sir. Mobile.
All right. Your mobile could stop you. Okay. What else?
That's the main thing, sir.
That's the only problem that you see. The biggest roadblock is your phone. All right. Thanks a lot, Shiva. What about Sanjay S? Sanjay, can you hear me, Sanjay? Okay.
Roger that.
Awesome, Sanjay. Let's hear from you, Sanjay. What's your goal?
To complete my studies, sir.
Completing your studies itself is the goal. Okay. All right.
Okay. The biggest aim is to serve the society.
The biggest roadblock is society, is it?
Yes, serve the society.
Oh, that's your goal, to serve the society. Okay. And what do you think are your roadblocks, Sanjay?
Like others said, it's the mobile, sir.
Everyone in this commerce and arts group seems to be having a problem with the mobile. The mobile phone is a bigger pandemic than the coronavirus right now in Sjpuc. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks. Any other roadblocks, Sanjay, or is that it?
No, sir.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sanjay. Can we check with Suche Belagur? Shuche Belagur. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Shuche.
Roger that.
Awesome, Shuche. Go ahead. Tell me, what's your big goal?
My goal is to get into this college in Delhi. So for that, the cutoff is like 98 to 99. So
awesome. So that's your goal.
Much in 12th.
All right.
So It's a
So
pretty basic goal. I know it's as
absolutely, but it's definitely something that's important to you. I mean, you've set this as your goal. That's brilliant. Besides your mobile phone, what else do you think are the roadblocks along the way?
so like I lose focus and concentration easily. I get distracted easily,
Okay.
and I sometimes I have low self-esteem, and I think too less about myself, and
Okay.
that I don't think I can achieve that much.
All right.
So that brings me down, and I don't feel like.
All right.
So I get demotivated a lot.
All right. All right. All right. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing that. We will move on to our final person, Raj Kiran. Raj Kiran, are you there with us? Okay, I think Raj isn't with us. Neil Jushu, are you there with us, Neil? Okay, I think Neil is also not there with us. We will go to George Kuriakos. George, are you there, George? George, if you're speaking, you'll have to unmute yourself and speak. Okay, it doesn't look like we're able to connect with George. We will check one last time with Zion Riaz. Zion, are you there? Awesome, Zion. Loud and clear, we can hear you. Can you tell us what's your goal, Zion?
So my goal as of now is to read a book on financial education, one chapter a
Brilliant.
day.
One
So
chapter a day. I love the way you've specified and said one chapter a day. What time in the day are you going to read this, Zion?
actually, before sleeping, I think.
Brilliant, brilliant. I love how you've narrowed it down. It's like you didn't even need to attend this session, Zion. You're already doing everything I've told you to do. All right. What do you think are the roadblocks, Zion?
So my reasons for not achieving this particular goal is misplacing the book. First one.
Okay, wow. All right.
It actually happened yesterday. So the
Okay.
second one is
Huh.
having enough entertainment. For example, my phone.
Okay. So having enough entertainment, how is that a roadblock? You're saying you don't have enough entertainment and you'll want something more entertaining because the book is not entertaining in itself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anything else, Zion?
Not in the mood to read.
Not in the mood to read only. Yeah, of course. I can
And when
relate
the
to you, Zion. Yeah.
book gets too boring.
Correct. The book gets too boring. At the end of the day, it's finance, a book on finance, right? Not too interesting. Very true. What else?
And when I'm just too busy.
You're just too busy. Doing what, Zion?
Could be anything, either studying or
Correct. You're too
spending
busy
time with my
studying.
family.
All right. All right. Very true. Very true. Thanks a lot, Zion.
Thank you.
Very interesting. If you notice, all of you have got a whole bunch of goals, and now if you look at it, you've actually listed out all the possible ways that you will not be able to achieve those goals. This is why we call it a failure pre-mortem, because now that you know what are the possible ways that can, or the possible roadblocks that can stop you from achieving your goal, 1 year from now, you won't be able to give yourselves these reasons at that point in time. You already have these reasons, and now, since you're aware of these reasons, it's well within your control to address them. If you think your guitar string is going to break and it's going to stop you from achieving your goal of becoming a guitarist, you always have the ability to buy a pair of extra strings, buy a set of extra strings right now. So you don't have to use this excuse along the way. If you know for a fact that your mobile phone is going to be the biggest roadblock, set it aside, lock it up in a cupboard, give it to your parents, and say, only once I'm done with 3 chapters of this book, or only once I'm done completing 15 pages of this book, only then unlock this cupboard and give me the phone, right? This brings me to another technique. Besides just identifying these mistakes, there's another technique that helps you sustain these goals, which is called a social contract. All right. Now, all of us have contracts. Those of us who live in rented houses have contracts with our landlords. Those of us who study today in college, we have a contract with the college. We're supposed to have minimum number of hours of attendance. We're supposed to be in college from this time to this time. All of us have different contracts in life. A social contract is a contract that you make with somebody who's an acquaintance or a friend of yours. It could be anybody. It could be your sibling, your parent, your teacher, your friend, anybody in your social circle. You make a contract with them. Like, for instance, if my contract is, my goal is I want to lose weight and I want to eat healthy, then I'm going to make a social contract with my friend saying every time that I eat something that's not healthy, every time I eat some junk food or the other, I'm going to pay you 10 rupees for every time I fall short of meeting this goal, right? It's a social contract. So my friend, he wants to make that quick buck. He's going to be hell bent on making sure he's as strict as possible, monitoring every time I go out with him to have lunch, or every time I go out with him to have a meal. He's going to be so sure that he collects on those 10 rupees, and he's going to keep me in check. That's a social contract. It might sound very trivial, but trust me, it works. Have a social contract with somebody who's with you a lot of the times. It could be, like I said, a sibling, it could be a parent. Make them make you accountable. Hold yourself accountable with the help of your friends, with the help of your family. These social contracts put you in check. It's a good fun way to bond with your friends, your family, and get them on the road of being a part of this journey of yours to achieve your goal. If you feel that for whatever reason you aren't able to complete a chapter of reading a book, make sure that they hold you accountable to it. If you feel that you're going low on self esteem, help them put that accountability factor into your life so that you achieve these goals. One very simple example I can give all of you is peer pressure. Now, there's a lot that's spoken about peer pressure, especially at the age that all of you are at. A lot of people talk about the negative effects of peer pressure. What if I told you you can convert peer pressure into something positive? I did that. I used peer pressure for something positive in my life. Now, like I mentioned to you right at the very start, I'm a huge foodie and I've always been trying to, stay fit, work out, do all of that. So I decided that I'm going to start waking up at 5 in the morning and I'm going to run for 5 kilometers. Once I run for 5 km at 5 a.m., I'm going to take a nice big selfie and post it on all my social media. Make sure that all my friends know I've woken up at 5 a.m. in the morning and I've run 5 km. Now, once I started doing this, I did this on a Monday, did the same thing on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Everybody knew, but at the end of these 5 days, at the end of this week one, this guy's suddenly got into fitness. Here is this guy showing off about running at 5 km at 5 a.m. in Cubbon Park, running all over Bangalore. All of these pictures, everybody knew about it. So the Saturday, when Saturday came and I didn't have that mood to wake up and go, I said, Saturday, let me just sleep in. Why make the effort of going out? I decided to take a day off. The moment I didn't go out there running, I had so many of these friends and family texting me, messaging me saying, what happened? Where's today's post? Where's your 5 km at 5 a.m.? Have you suddenly stopped again? Just a 5 day thing that you started. And that was peer pressure. Sunday onwards, I knew no matter what, if it's a Sunday, Monday, any day of the week, I wanted to prove to these friends of mine that I started something and I'm going to see it through. Just because of this peer pressure of, what am I going to answer my friends? I don't want to be a laughing stock. My reputation is at stake. I use that pressure to push me to get out of the bed in the morning, get out there and run for 5K at 5 a.m. every day. And it's worked for me. Use peer pressure, use a social contract to get you into that mood of achieving your goals. Trust me, it works. And the only way you'll know if it works or not is if you give it a shot. All right. Uh, Having said all of this about habits, having spoken to all of you about the importance of sticking to these habits, one very important note I would like to leave all of you with is don't get too worked up or don't beat yourself about it if for whatever reason there's one day that you miss this entire habit that you're trying to start. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. But as far as possible, don't let yourself miss the chain or miss your streak for more than 2 days, because that's setting in the habit of not achieving your goals. You're getting into that habit of sliding. You're getting into that habit of slipping. And that's something that you want to avoid. All right. One day it's fine for whatever reason, something urgent comes up. We've all got different things happening in our lives with our circle of friends, our family. It's okay. Don't beat yourself about it. But don't get into the habit of sliding. That streak is something that you can hold true to yourself, show it to the rest of the world, flaunt it, talk about it, be proud of the fact that for so many days consistently, this is a habit that you started. This is a habit that you take pride in. This is the person that you want to become. It's not just a hobby, it's the passion that you've embraced wholeheartedly, and you want the world to know that this is the kind of habit that you've embraced. Having said all of this, there's just one last topic that I would like to leave all of you with. But before I get into that topic, I want to ask all of you, do you have any questions? Do you have any queries on what we've covered so far? We've spoken about Kaizen, about taking small steps, small improvements during the course of time. And how do you go about building these atomic habits, sticking to these habits, forming these habits, starting to like these habits? We've covered quite a bit. Do any of you have any questions you'd like me to answer?
Yeah, Roger that.
Go ahead, Naman. I can hear you.
Yeah, initially you had said that figuring out what habit you have to develop and set up systems.
Correct.
Can you give an example? Like I procrastinate a lot, take things to the deadline and do at the last moment. So can you help me with that?
Brilliant, brilliant point that you brought up, Naman. The fact that a lot of us push things towards the last minute, that last minute pressure is something that, for whatever reason, most of us feel that we are most productive only when there's one last day to submit that project, to finish that assignment, to study for the exams. Most of you notice throughout the entire month you would not have touched your books, but when you know it's just about 2 days left for your exams, that's when you cram in and give in whatever you can and somehow try to scrape through. Now, don't get me wrong, this does happen in daily life. It does happen to a lot of people, and that's the choice that they make. They want to be the last minute pressure kind of a student that somehow manages to get things done in the last minute. And maybe that works for them well and good. But instead of somehow just surviving by the edge of a thread in that sense, why not thrive? Why not finish your work well in advance? Now, the only way you can finish your work well in advance, not be the last minute kind of person, is like I said, Naman, if you set a system in place. If no matter what, tonight you will not sleep until at least one page of that 10-pager assignment is completed, that's how you get the job done well in advance. You don't become a last minute person. You hold yourself accountable to it one day at a time. All right. Like I said, if it's an assignment you're talking about, you've got a 10-page assignment and you've got 10 days to complete it. You know, you need to focus on getting that one page done today. Write it down no matter what the day before. Tonight itself, I write it down that my plan for tomorrow is on Monday, from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., I'm going to focus on getting this one page done of this assignment. No matter what happens, I'm going to sacrifice having dinner if it has to come to that, but I'm going to make sure that I get that one page done. That's how you set your system in place, and the system can't be flawed. You can falter on everything else, but if the system is in place, the system will make sure that you achieve your goal. Like I mentioned to you, there are different techniques. One is the social contract. Involve your parents, involve your friends, your siblings. Tell your friends, listen, don't talk to me, don't message me, don't call me if I have not completed this one page. Hold yourself accountable. Your friends will look at it as a game, as a fun game, as an interesting way to pull your leg, as an interesting way to put some pressure on you. It's a fun activity. Make these approaches fun so that you enjoy the process along the way. Like I said, you have to like it. For instance, if you're going to reward yourself with, say, some yummy, delicious ice cream, tell yourself, only if I complete halfway through this project will I get one cornetto or one delicious ice cream, and possibly at the end of these 10 days, I reward myself with a nice, big, sumptuous meal. Figure out what is it that you like. I'm talking only in terms of food because, as you would have noticed, I'm a big foodie, like I mentioned to you. Find out what's that one thing that's going to give you that excitement in life. Use that as a reward mechanism, and that's how you set your system in place, Naman.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Sure, Naman. Any other questions? All right. If we don't have any other questions, there's something that I'd like to share with all of you. Not, yeah, Kripal, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. Just one question, like which I have come across quite a
Go
lot, and
ahead.
I think others would too.
Go ahead,
So
Kripal.
whenever I start with something, and like whenever I want to bring in a new change, so it's always the most the best example that I can give you of my experience is that when I haven't been like working out for a while, and like I suddenly get this outburst that I want to do it at any cost, and like I keep it going. I start off great, like I've worked out like I've never worked out before. It goes on good for 1 week and 2 weeks, and after that suddenly something happens. It starts deteriorating, sir. I want to really know how to keep it going even after like 1 or 2 weeks with the
Absolutely.
same enthusiasm.
Absolutely, Kripal. So that's exactly what I mentioned to you. The biggest mistake, and I myself can absolutely relate to this because this is something that I myself made the mistake of doing. We start very high. I agree when you say the first 2 weeks, it's amazing. You're able to, do 1 hour of high intensity workout. But at the end of the day, 1 hour is a big investment. It's a lot that you're putting in. We're making the mistake of taking that leap from day one itself. Leaping for day one from day one itself puts a lot of pressure on ourselves. So the best way, Kripal, to address this is to start small. No matter what, no matter how frustrating, you may think to yourself, what is this? Why am I doing a 15-minute workout? I know I'm capable of working out for a continuous 1 hour. I know I can put in that effort. Why am I confining myself to just 15 minutes? Start small, Kripal, because 2 weeks down the line or 3 weeks down the line, you'll still be able to commit to that 15 minutes of high intensity workout rather than a 1 hour of high intensity workout. You'll know no matter what comes up in life, no matter how busy your day is, 15 minutes is a lot more easier to somehow slip in towards the end of the day rather than a 1 hour high intensity workout, right? So
Yes,
start
sir, yes, sir.
small, make these into small nuggets or small pieces of easily achievable tasks. You need to fool
Yes,
your brain into thinking that, what, it's a small task, it's not going to take in too much of effort, this is something I can get done no matter what. Even if I have an exam to write during the entire day or I have to study for the exam, I can still slip in that 15 minutes of working out. It's not too much of
yes.
an ask.
Got it, sir. Got it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Sir Kripal.
Another doubt I have, sir,
Go ahead, man. Yeah.
that as he said, even the same problem is with me, sir. Like we tend to be more enthusiastic. Suppose I'm enthusiastic to work out now for 1 hour, and I'm capable of to do that. Suppose I do it for 1 hour now, and suppose in future I'm not so enthusiastic. So can we alter that, like for 15 minutes? Why to waste enthusiasm now if I'm why to waste the capability currently we have? Like that's my question.
So I understand what you're saying. You're, like I said, you have the energy, the enthusiasm to work out for 1 hour.
Yeah.
So why are you saying confine yourself to that 15 minutes, right? Because that's when this entire stress and anxiety steps in, where for the first 3 days you work out for 1 hour, and then you tell yourself, if the fourth day for whatever reason you can only work out for 15 minutes, your mind is going to tell you, you know what, I'm becoming a disappointment. I'm not performing to the level I used to perform 3 days ago. For the last 3 days, if I've hit the mark of 1 hour, today it's a day that's not as good as the previous 3 days. And you don't want to get into that mindset where you are declining in performance. You want to get into that mindset where you're only increasing the level of performance or increasing the level of efficiency. That's why I'm saying start with 15 minutes. No matter how enthusiastic you are, start small. If after a week you want to increase it from say 15 minutes to 25 minutes or 30 minutes, by all means increase to quantities or time limits that you know, or chunks of work that you know that you can accomplish. But once you start that decreasing, you know you're declining. Your mind tells you, I'm not doing this as well as I was doing this before. So start small and have smaller incremental changes. In fact, there's one thing that James Clear talks about. So the whole concept of Kaizen, like I mentioned to you, is small incremental changes. So James Clear says statistically, and I'm sure you commerce students will know this better than me, if you do the math and if you increase just 1% every day, by the end of 1 year, by the end of 365 days, you will be 37 times a better version of yourself than you were when you first started off the year. Just 1%. Don't overburden yourself with anything beyond that. Don't think I'm going to do 50% today and then I'm going to do 40% tomorrow. It's not productive. Just focus on 1%, getting 1% better than you are today. That's about it. I hope that answers your question, Naman.
Yes, sir. Thanks. That 1.01 power 365. Sir. I
Exactly.
know.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, now. Do we have any other questions? All right. Before I conclude, something that's a little digressing from the topic, I basically want to share with you the importance of whatever we do, what are you doing right now? Right now, you are studying really hard because you want to get good marks. Why do you want to get good marks? Because you possibly want to get into a good job after this. Why do you want to get a good job? Because you want to get a good salary. Once you start getting a good salary, you start working hard, putting in all of the effort for what? Because you want to get a promotion. Why do you want to get a promotion? Because you want to earn more money. Why are we doing all of this? All of us are in this crazy rat race of life, thinking that whatever we're going to do next is going to give us some sort of happiness. You do get that happiness. There's no two thoughts about it. You work hard, you get good marks, you feel happy about it. You're on top of the world. But how long has that last? Take for instance the last unit or the first unit test of last year. Those of you who got really high marks, you were kicked, you were happy about it, you told your friends, your family, you told everybody about it. But how long did that happiness last? Today, if I talk about that same unit test, are you still happy about it, as happy as you were when you first got those marks? Not really, right? What about those of you who moved from when you got to know that you got a seat in St. Joseph's Pre-University College? You were kicked, you were excited about it. That was when you first got to know about it. But after a point, that happiness kind of died down, right? That's when a whole bunch of scientists got together and they realized that what's biologically happening to us when we get these outbursts of happiness, why does it not last? That's because there's dopamine that's released into our systems. Dopamine is released, and as long as that dopamine effect is there, we're all happy, we're all excited. That's the same dopamine that gets released when you say find some spare change in your pocket before you throw your clothes for washing. That's the same dopamine that gets released when you get good marks. That's the same dopamine that's going to get released when you get a good job. All of this is the same dopamine effect that's short term, it's temporary. So then a whole bunch of psychologists got involved and they said, so what's happening then is just a temporary sort of happiness. Happiness is just temporary. What is it then that's more long term? What is the kind of fulfillment? What's the difference then between happiness and fulfillment? If happiness is short term and fulfillment is something that's a lot more long term, what is it that we as humans can do to feel fulfilled at the end of the day? If it's not just getting good marks, it's not just getting a good job, not just getting a good salary or a promotion, what is it that we can do? That's when they figured out that the only thing we as humans can do that will make us feel fulfilled is when we do something for someone other than ourselves. And the second clause is without expecting anything in return. That's why if you stop to think of it, when millionaires and billionaires, the Bill Gates and Azim Premji or a Narayan Murthy, when they've earned billions and millions of dollars and they can't really tell the difference, that stopped giving them that sense of happiness. That's when they've started getting into philanthropy. They start getting into social service. They want to give their money to somebody else other than themselves, whom they know cannot repay them. They cannot expect anything in return from them. Why do they all get into philanthropy? It's because it gives them some sense of fulfillment. Bill Gates started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They invest billions of dollars in that foundation because it goes for a good cause to help people who cannot repay them in any form. Why do they do it? Because it gives them some sense of fulfillment. Why am I telling you about these millionaires and billionaires? Some of you may say, I don't even get enough pocket money now. Why is he telling me about giving charity and trying to feel fulfilled right now? You don't need to give money to feel fulfilled. It's as simple as helping the person next to you. Think about your parents for a second. The fact that your parents slog day and night to ensure that they give you a good education, they give you food and shelter, they give you clothing. Why are they doing it? They're doing it for somebody other than themselves. They're doing it for you. And they don't expect anything in return. So why do they do it? Because they feel fulfilled. Your parents looking after you, seeing you succeed, gives them some sense of fulfillment. Likewise, if you have siblings and you, for whatever reason, have given your sibling a treat or taken them out for lunch, you're doing it because it gives you, whether you realize it or not, some sense of fulfillment. And that's something that all of us, we don't need to wait till we become CEOs of companies or millionaires or billionaires to start feeling fulfilled. We can start right now. Help the other person who possibly isn't as good as you when it comes to academics. Help the person next to you possibly who isn't as good as you when it comes to music, since all of you are so fond of music. Help them in some way or the other without expecting anything in return. You'll realize, or you'll notice that change in you where you start feeling a lot more content with your life than it was before. Try this out. This is something that I found to be useful. But I always tell students, there's a very important subtext that goes along with it. When I say help others, I don't mean help them during the exam when the exam is going on, because we don't encourage such activity in SJPUC. So help them in any other spare time that you have. Make sure that this is one habit that you decide to start forming right now if you haven't already started. This is something to keep in mind. And I'd like to conclude with one final promise that I made to all of you right at the beginning. Ryan said he loves to sing. So, Ryan, could we have a few lines from you?
Roger that. So, how much do you want me to sing? Like a whole song or half of it?
A few lines, Ryan. 3 to 4
Few
lines of
lines.
your favorite song. Yeah.
Sure. So I'll sing a song that I wrote myself during this pandemic season.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. So the song's name is Hope. It just speaks about the hope that we can have during this time.
Awesome. Let's hear it, Ryan.
There's people around losing hope. Their friends and loved ones are no more home. Others unable to find a job. This plague in town snatched it all. There's pain and there's tears and there's hopes going down. It's hard to believe that we'll find a way out. Can't live with the losses, can't live with the hurt. Can see someone else getting buried in dirt. But there's hope, 'cause God never forgets his people. If his name we call, he will heal our land. It's only for a little while, and you finally see his hand. Oh, there's hope, 'cause God never forgets, oh, never forgets his people.
Wow, that was brilliant, Ryan. That was brilliant. Very meaningful words, beautifully sung. Thanks a lot for that, Ryan.
Thank you so
We'll end
much.
this session with those wonderful, with that wonderful tune you left for all of us. Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Thank you, Roger.
For the rest of you, I'll be more than happy to connect with all of you and reach out to you. If you do have any queries or questions later on, you can connect with me. Those are my coordinates. That's my LinkedIn. That's a WordPress website that I have, rogerlurshay@wordpress.com. Now and then, whenever I do get time, I do post a few YouTube videos on topics such as this. And also very recently, I've started a podcast on Spotify about public speaking that's called Roger That. So hopefully I will connect with all of you sooner than later. Thank you for listening very patiently and being such a nice and interactive bunch of Josephites. It's been fun interacting with all of you. Looking forward to do this very soon. Thanks all.
I now invite Father Principal to speak a few words.
Good afternoon, dear friends. I would like to say a few words regarding Kaizen on behalf of the entire Josephite family. This is our first venture in collaboration with our newly formed Old Boys Association. I'm grateful to all the members of the OBA, especially the core team, for taking this initiative in organizing such a wonderful program to help the holistic development of all the budding Josephites. I wish to express my gratitude to Mr. Roger LURSHAY, our resource person for this, for his availability and his willingness to collaborate with us. The imagery that comes before my eyes when I think of Roger is that of a still waters running deep. Roger is one such personality who is very talented and brimming with knowledge, but ever so humble and always open to learn. We need role models like Roger to form our young people. Young people learn from the examples of their seniors. a well-groomed Jesuit product, a true Josephite, and an inspiration to many young men. There's a lot of depth, clarity, and creativity in his thinking. Above all, he is a very affectionate human being. An example for the theme that we have chosen for this academic year: fully human, fully alive. He has been contributing a lot to various Jesuit institutions in Bangalore. He is also the Vice President of OBA of SJPUC and also the office bearer of alumni of various other Jesuit institutions. One of the goals of OBA is to contribute to the progress of their alma mater. Our OBA contributed a lot. They have made a great progress within a short span of time. We have already started experiencing the fruit of our hard work. I would like to place on record the contributions of Ms. Smita Chako, the former HOD of English Department, and presently the Cultural Coordinator, and Ms. Wahidunisa, the Student Council Governor, who have taken this initiative of organizing Kaizen, Self-Improvement Program. Their availability for the students in the campus is commendable. They accompany our students in their joys and sorrows. They not only teach them subjects, they dance with them, laugh with them, cry with them, eat with them, and create a healthy atmosphere for students' growth and progress. They even come up with innovative ideas to explore new things. I thank Ms. Smita, Ms. Vaida, and all the faculty members for rendering your service in a true Ignatian spirit, in a spirit of marches and generosity. SJPUC is truly lucky to have collaborators like you. My dear boys, it is important that we are not stagnated and find opportunities to grow into better human persons. I wish that you make use of every single opportunity that comes your way to discover yourself and your true potential and transform into persons of love, confidence, and wisdom, an embodiment of Josephite spirit and values. God bless us all.
Thank you, Father, for your support and guidance in all our endeavors. Gratitude is a powerful catalyst for happiness. I now invite Ryan to propose the vote of thanks.
A very good morning. It is said that gratitude is the most powerful creative force in the universe. So I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. Let me start by giving glory to God for making today's occasion a resounding success. First and foremost, I thank our special guest, Roger Joseph LURSHAY, who despite his busy schedule has found time to grace this occasion and share his valuable insights with us. We are grateful to our Reverend Father, Melvin Lobo S.J., for his able guidance which has always encouraged us. I thank him for his kindness and continued support. I thank our Vice Principal, Ms. Renuka Zechariah, for her stewardship and commitment. I also thank our Campus Minister, Reverend Father Wilson Bennis S.J., for his generous support of this program. My heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee for their valuable contribution and guidance. I owe special gratitude to the technical committee who have worked very hard to ensure that this occasion becomes a memorable success. I thank all the teachers for their encouragement. Thank you, dear parents, for your wholehearted support. And last but not the least, I thank the students for your participation and cooperation. I leave you this inspiring quote by Robin Sharma. Investing in yourself is the best investment you will ever make. It will not only improve your life, it will improve the lives of all those around you. Once again, thank you, one and all. Have a blessed day.